Okay, so we start. A very good afternoon to our folks in Thailand and Southeast Asia and the rest of Asia. Good morning to Europe and Africa, Middle East, and good afternoon, evening, I would assume, to everyone who follows us in the Americas. This is our third or fourth, I think, meanwhile, Beyond Mobile webinar on smart cities. I will tell you more about that later on. The reason why we're doing this webinar today is that this is part of our road to Beyond Mobile, where this event takes place in June next year in Bangkok, all about 5G and unlocking the IoT area. My name is Mark Wächter. Can you show the next chart, please? This series of webinars, which is one of these today, is building the road to the event in June in Bangkok. So if you're interested in what's happening around 5G and the impact of businesses like life science, agriculture, digital health, smart manufacturing, or like today, smart cities, and the next one on future mobility, just follow our webinar series and also join us at the event in June. I have three guests on board here today, which are said to be really experts on that topic. We have Ravi Kulagi. He's director and CTO from Cisco. He will talk now about smart cities in the age of 5G. Ravi, this is all your stage.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much, and good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, wherever you are. First of all, thanks, Mark and the Beyond Mobile team for inviting me, and let me start, sharing my slides and kick started. Just give me 1 second. Yes. Okay. Cool. I hope everybody can see my slides now. Welcome to this session, which is around smart cities in the age of 5G, right? So like Mark said, I work as a CTO for the public sector business in Cisco. And these are the 4 topics that I'm going to cover in the next 10 minutes that I've been given. And obviously, there's going to be a lot more discussion as we continue this particular session. So coming to smart cities, setting the stage in terms of what a smart city is and what are the use cases that are typically part of a smart city implementation, right? From our point of view, from Cisco point of view, when we started looking at smart cities almost close to a decade ago, a little more than that, we bucketized the use cases and the transformation that we want to drive in 4 different sorts of focus areas, right? One is around urban mobility, which is all about moving people and goods from point A to point B in an urban area, with most cost effectively and time effectively, right? So that's one focus area, and within that focus area, there are a number of use cases that we have implemented and the customers have started to implement as well, which is around connected transport, smart parking, intelligent traffic management systems, and traffic analytics, and those kinds of connected buses, all these kinds of use cases fall within that urban mobility focus area. Then the second one, which is obviously a much big now compared to a few years ago, we all heard about COP26 conference happening just last week, and then the focus around sustainability. There are a number of use cases within that focus area. That includes things like smart energy management and street lighting, environmental monitoring and policy around that. Smart waste management, smart water. These are all scarce resources, and how can we make best use of the scarce resources we have so that we build a sustainable future, right? So that's the second focus area in terms of smart city use cases. The third one is all about citizens, and I mean, any city which doesn't consider citizen services, citizen engagement, and citizens' point of view is not really going to be successful. So we have to make citizens part of this journey, and there is a number of use cases within that focus area around citizen engagement that includes things like public Wi-Fi, interactive kiosks, delivering public services through digital channels and smart city applications where citizens can do a lot of transactions with the city and local urban bodies through a digital channel. And the last but not the least is around urban safety, right? How do you make the city and citizens safe? That includes use cases like surveillance, analytics, emergency response, disaster management, and all these use cases fall within that focus area, right? And then all of these use cases obviously generate a lot of data, and all of that data is extremely valuable from a city operations perspective. So having a city operations center that aggregates all of this data for the real-time contextual situational awareness of what's happening in the city, so that real-time actions as well as policy actions can be taken based on this data. So city operations center becomes an important aspect of your smart city deployment, right? Now, that being the very high level view of what a smart city implementation might look like, then let's get into what 5G is and how it can help cities transform themselves into smart cities, right? So 5G, obviously, we all know, is the latest generation of the cellular technology, and we have experienced the previous generations of cellular technologies from 1G all the way up to now. And what does 5G bring to the table? 5G brings to the table a new set of exciting features around new radios, new spectrum that we can leverage, including some unlicensed band, and also the core network technology has evolved for efficiency, for lesser low cost of ownership. All those things are coming through 5G, and 5G, as we know, is coming through different releases. There's release 15, there's release 16, there is release 17. Each one of them bringing new capabilities into the new cellular network in this generation of cellular networks, right? So if you look at the three services that are offered by 5G technology, they are at the top here. Number one, on the right side, is the enhanced mobile broadband. It's all about enhancing the broadband experience of mobile users, or even in many cases fixed broadband users through cellular technology. Higher bandwidth, higher throughputs, delivering much better experiences through consumer services. So that's on the one service that's called enhanced mobile broadband. The second one is called ultra reliable low latency communication capability of 5G, which will help us deliver mission critical services, which is around traffic management, surveillance, emergency response, all these kinds of services where there is requirement for very high bandwidth of video and other related services. Massive IoT enables what it's called MMTC in the 5G technology. It enables connecting hundreds and thousands of devices in a smaller area to connect pretty much everything that needs to be connected to deliver a public service. It could be your traffic lights, it could be your smart parking sensors, it could be your street lights, it could be your smart meters delivering utility services. All of these fall in that massive IoT bucket of use cases that 5G enables. But from a network architecture perspective, 5G architecture leverages what we all have heard, which is called the software-defined paradigm of networks. It all brings in open networking, programmable networking, so that you can drive efficiency through programmability and automation and integration with the rest of the networking systems in a seamless manner, delivering a much better networking platform for creating and monetizing services on top of it, right? So we heard, we looked at the use cases, we looked at what 5G brings in terms of technology capabilities. Now, how do we apply them to smart cities, right? So if you look at the three categories that I talked about, three capabilities that I talked about, one is around enhanced mobile broadband. What services we can deliver through that capability? It's about improved citizen services, use cases like virtual tourism, remote education, all these kinds of use cases can be now monetized using the enhanced capability of the broadband service that will be delivered using 5G. In the MMTC type of capability, it's all about connecting mission critical systems to the 5G network, which is around intelligent transport, vehicle to vehicle or vehicle to infrastructure communications, leveraging drones for surveillance and emergency response, or in some cases, even planning, urban planning related activities can now be done through drones, etc. So all these kinds of capabilities can be delivered through MMTC capability. And then in terms of ultra low latency reliable communications, it's about AR VR, high definition video for use cases that require that kind of capability. So all each of these capabilities that are coming from 5G will be applicable to bunch of use cases in smart cities that I talked in the first slide, whether it is on the mobility side, whether it is on the safety side, or it's on the sustainability side, or on the citizen engagement. All those focus areas that are talked about will leverage these three network services that 5G brings to the table, right? If you look at, here is one example, a potential example of how that can be done. 5G, as you know, delivers a new capability called network slicing. It's all about having dedicated, components of the stack, of the 5G stack, all the way up to the core, 5G core, for a particular use case or a particular set of use cases. So as you can see here, in the same infrastructure, we have created two sort of slices. One for delivering urban services, IoT-led urban services, which don't necessarily need very high bandwidth, very high reliable communication. Whereas you see the second slice, where we are talking about emergency service, high definition video, and all these kinds of use cases, which need very high reliability and very high bandwidth and throughput. So by creating two slices, we are leveraging the same infrastructure, but delivering a different quality of service to different services that require that level of differentiated services, right? So this is one set of an example of how it can be applied. 5G can be applied to smart cities, right? Now, while we all talk about 5G as an upcoming technology, and it's already being deployed, and I know Shannon is going to talk about some of the examples that they have done in Thailand, etc. But the smart city itself will need a much broader set of networking technologies, and that's what I'm going to talk about here, right? So as you start to build the solution for 5G, you will have requirement for different types of devices, wired, wireless. Sometimes you need a low power wireless device because they're running on battery. They need a different type of a wireless network. So a comprehensive smart city network architecture will include all these capabilities, including the 5G capability for delivering those use cases. So a typical network architecture will have all these capabilities, from wired connection to outdoor Wi-Fi to cellular to low power networks like LoRaWAN and mesh, etc. Right? And then 5G kind of gets integrated into that whole network architecture. Private 5G more so, because it's meant for integration with enterprise networks. And then all of that, obviously, leading up to a city operations center, right? Now, with that being a high-level overview of what are the use cases, what are the capabilities of 5G, how do we apply 5G to these use cases and the network, how should we approach transformation of a service or a transformation of a smart city or any other public service? What is a good methodology? And here is one sort of a proposal around that, right? So if we want to adopt 5G as a transformative technology, how do we go about it, right? So first, obviously, we need to be convinced that 5G is a requirement for some of these use cases, which it is very much, right? And then have a vision that eventually a private 5G or a 5G network is going to be part of my city's IT strategy, right? That vision has to be made. And then once you have that vision, then prioritize the use cases, right? What are the high runner use cases, high impact use cases that we can transform using the 5G technology. Pick the use cases from the list here, or anything that you might have in your in your list, right? Once you know what are the use cases that you want to do, then a 5G as well as a smart city project is never going to be successful if you don't have the right technology and use case ecosystem. So to implement the use cases that you just identified or prioritized, finding the right ecosystem, who brings what value, who is going to implement my street lighting or smart water system or my drone, who is going to bring that value, what value they are going to bring to the system. Creating that ecosystem is very important. So that's the third step. And the fourth step is implementing those prioritized use cases with your ecosystem and making sure that you can demonstrate the value of that technology. So do the proof of value demonstration. And in many cases, especially in public sector and smart cities, the proof of value many times need not be financial. Yes, many times it should be financial, and it is financial, but sometimes the proof of value can be in social change as well as environmental change, which doesn't necessarily easily translate to a dollar value, but it is a very important value that we are delivering to our stakeholders, right? And then once you have the list of these use cases and you have demonstrated the value of these implementations, then putting the strategy to scale the adoption. So you did the proof of value in a small area or a living lab and those kinds of things, and then how do you now scale this to the whole city or the whole region that you are responsible for? So this gives us a structured way of thinking. How can we enable 5G-led transformation for a city or for any other public sector entity? With that concludes my session, my 10 minutes, I guess. Mark, over to you.
Yes, was slightly over 10 minutes, but it was very interesting. Thank you very much, Ravi. Yep. Sorry for the hiccup in the beginning. I hope we are now technically tuned again. Your presentation was perfectly well. Everything went smooth. Great. We will have you on the panel afterwards. So Q&A, guys, on the screens. If you have any question for Ravi, just put it into the Q&A box, and then we take it further in the panel discussion. So next on screen is now Gert Kokua. He is head of enterprise marketing and SME business at AIS. Everyone in Thailand knows AIS. For the rest of the world, it's one of the biggest operators in that region. And of course, they have something to say around 5G. So now, stage is yours.
Thank you very much, good Mark. Sawasdee krap, everyone from all over the world. Today, it's my privilege that I joined this event Beyond Mobile, and I would like to thank organizer to give me a chance to explain about smart city in Thailand with 5G technology, especially in EEC. So first of all, I would like to explain about EEC because many of you may not know what EEC is. EEC stands for Eastern Economic Corridor. This is a mega project by Royal Thai government that they would like to try to promote the eastern part of Thailand to be a hub of innovation, about a hub of digital technology, and bring economic value to Thailand. So this area is very special for Thailand economic growth. I will have a slide later to show what ECC is in detail. And it's my privilege again to present this after Khun Ravi, because Khun Ravi mentioned about what 5G is already. So I think first of all, I have to mention about what AIS prepare for 5G in Thailand first. I think I would like to explain about three readiness here. First one is about 5G spectrum. We did have an auction by NBTC regulator here in Thailand in early 2020. I will explain later which spectrum that we currently acquired and what we can do with those spectrum. Secondly, I will explain about how we expand 5G coverage in Thailand and in EEC. And last but not least, we have to develop 5G platforms in order to support many use cases of 5G, both in B2B and B2C. First one is about bandwidth. it's about spectrum. In Thailand, we did have a spectrum for all bandwidth for 5G from low band, mid band, and high band. Low band is 700 megahertz. This is very suitable for Internet of Things for a lot of sensors because they can serve larger coverage, and they also can support 1 million connectivities even under square meter. So many cases of 5G like smart grid, smart meter, so on and so forth will fall under this low band. The second one is mid band, 2600 megahertz. This is normally for a typical mobile usage. And last but not least is high band, 26 gigahertz. This one is suitable for private network for really specific area like in a seaport, airport, in factory, because this one can support bandwidth. A lot of bandwidth can support high speed use cases, and they're also suitable to do the specific network for specific application in specific area. Next is about coverage in Thailand. Right now, we have more than 70% of Thai population covered by 5G already. So 767 provinces in Thailand, in the key city, we have a 5G network coverage there. But I would like to mention for coverage in EEC in particular, we have invested a lot in EEC, and right now we can cover more than 95% of EEC area. The reason why we need to invest a lot in EEC because, as I mentioned earlier, Eastern Economic Corridor is a government project that will bring value of investment up to 50 billion US dollar in the first 5 years. This is a change the way we operate, we run the business in EEC area because the government will invest a lot in critical infrastructure like international airport or seaport, or even seaport in Baptaput in Lanchabang will have more capacity to support transportation of goods and products. But we also have an investment to improve people's skills in this area as well. But the reason why the government invests a lot in this area because they would like to promote well-targeted industries, as shown on the right-hand side of the presentation. We would like to promote this new S-curve industry like next generation automotive, intelligent electronics, high value and medical tourism, advanced agriculture and biotechnology, food for the future, and 7 new S-curve industry like automotion, medical hub, aviation and logistics, biofuel, digital technology, defense, and even education and human resource development. So EEC is a key strategic area for Thailand. That's why we need to invest a lot to help any businesses in the area to adopt digital technology and grow together with this strategic movement of the Royal Thai government. So in my opinion, I think 5G in EEC will help us to grow in smart industry 4.0. So in manufacturing, I think the 5G can enhance productivity with high quality. They can help factory to optimize their resources and cost control. They can improve supply chain management, make the city more secure and safe workplace, and even support sustainability of energy and emission management. And not only provide network coverage in EEC or to nationwide in Thailand, ASV have to prepare network platform for businesses to support 5G application and use cases. The first one, we implement standalone and non-standalone dual network in Thailand. This will support many smart city application and smart manufacturing application and allow us to do network slicing. This is the second bullet here. Network slicing, as Khun Ravi mentioned a bit earlier, this allows us to have many quality of service connectivity under the same network. So in the same factory, in the same seaport, in the same city, if you have multiple applications or multiple use cases, network operator can slice the network to serve each application by their specification or by their requirement. If the application that need more connectivity but consume very low bandwidth, we can select one network for such application like Internet of Things or sensor. But if there are any application that need ultra low latency connectivity and with higher speed like AR or VR, we can have another slide to support such application as well. We also invest for multi-access edge computing in the EEC area. This will allow us to reduce the latency of many applications, not to be connected to the cloud far away and have very high latency. This will shorten the time that the application can respond in the factory or in the smart city, like robotic application or automation application. And last but not least, we also provide private network service in EEC as well. This allows smart city or industrial estate to have their own private network and to configure and manage their network more securely and have more privacy to serve their use cases. I will show a video clip to explain about 5G and smart industrial estate that AIS have collaborated with many industrial estates, especially in EEC area. I would like to mention about one of our strategic partner, which is Amata. Amata is one of the largest industrial estates in Thailand, and we work closely with Amata to promote Amata industrial estate to be a smart city and enable those factories in the industrial estate to adopt digital technology and promote their smart manufacturing application in their premises. I have one video clip that to explain about what we have done so far in EEC area. Please take a look. As we really believe that 5G will bring any possibility to become a reality. That's why we have worked with many partners to develop 5G use cases in EEC. Many of the cases shown in this slide have been done already since 2021, since 2020, and in 2021 as well. Some and there are many projects that are under consideration with many customer and partners in EEC area. We have done a lot of proof of concept, and many projects right now have become the real monetization and the real use case that they apply in their operation already. On the top left, this is the case of smart factory. We have two cases here. One is a Bosch factories in EEC. I think many of you know about Bosch. Bosch this is a German German-based manufacturer that have many products, and I think that they will acknowledge as a factory of factory. Under their factory in Rayong, they have a lot of Internet of Things sensor inside the factory, and they adopt 5G network in their factory to connect those sensors and allow their management, allow their operation team to manage and control the automation, the assembly line, the system under the factory very effectively. The second case is a factory of SNC. SNC is an OEM factory for air conditioner, and they apply many robots, many AGV inside their factory, and they use 5G to control those robots, to control those automated guided vehicle. In the middle, on the middle top here, this is the Utapao International Airport that we have a collaboration with the airport to use 5G technology for facial recognition and in the terminal of Utapao Airport. And there will be more and more use cases in Utapao Airport that we will announce later. The next one on the right, this is a 5G application in Seaport. We apply 5G technology in Lam Chabang Seaport for 3 applications. The first one is a remote control crane. This allows the crane controller to operate the crane remotely. And we not only apply 5G network in the Lam Chabang Seaport, but we also apply private network and also edge computing in order to enable such use case to happen in Lam Chabang Seaport. The second application in Lam Chabang Seaport is CCTV, because in the seaport you cannot lay the optical fiber easily. It will be a very huge investment for them because there's a lot of civil work inside the seaport. The 5G connectivity will allow them to connect the CCTV to their management control center. And last but not least, we had did a trial for self-control truck in the seaport as well. So based on those 5G use cases in EEC, this is the framework that AS think that if we would like to pursue 5G technology into businesses, I think that we must have partnership, because it's not only about digital technology like 5G, IoT, cloud, cybersecurity, and so on, but it's also related to industrial expertise like manufacturing, smart city, so on and so forth. That's why we think that if there are any use cases that you think that you can apply 5G, the role and responsibility of the telco like AIS or IT service provider is on the left-hand side. We provide your network, we provide your edge computing platform, so on and so forth. But we also need to collaborate with operation technology and system integrator to install hardware and devices, to develop software and application, and also to do the system integration for each use cases. So I think not only invest in network coverage or spectrum or in platform, but we need to build an ecosystem for related entities to work closely and develop 5G use cases. That's why, sorry, I have something wrong with my computer. That's why AS believe in ecosystem and partnership, and we work closely with many digital technology partner, with government and regulator, especially in EEC, and also with industrial experts like industrial estate, industrial park, or even factories to develop such use case. And I really believe that anywhere in the world can apply 5G and make your business go together with 5G technologies. That's all I would like to share here. Back to you, Khun Mark.
Thank you. Now, the video was kind of Hollywood style. It was great. Very much like it. All these partners you're showing here show how big this ecosystem of 5G is, and you certainly are in the middle of the storm. We will talk about this later in the panel. And gentlemen, now finally a lady comes on board, which is great. We have Shannon Kalayana Mitra. She is CEO of 5G Catalyst Technologies, and she exactly builds on that ecosystem. She drives that ecosystem, and so we are really happy to have her on board. And Shannon, the next 10 minutes are for you.
Hi, thank you, Mark. Also wanted to thank you for putting us all together. I think you really set the stage for how the speakers were talking. And in case a lot of people just want to understand the big picture So we had Ravi with Cisco with the overall global and macro view of the use cases, how it works, 5G. And then we had Kun Nao, who is from the spectrum side of things in transit, and how he actually applied that to the industrial parks. So for us at 5G CT, what I'll be showing you is the use case. We actually went down, we are more the solutions-based side of things. We're the last mile, and we work with smart cities. This time, our use case is more anything that helps the city, anything helps the citizens. And industrial right now is not our focus, but what I'm going to show you is based on 2 parts right here. So I'll have a video. So earlier this year in March, our company 5G CT or 5G Catalyst Technologies was able to launch the first 5G enabled smart city in Thailand. And I'll show you what that is. So the first part will be a video. And the second part will be some PowerPoint slides to actually elaborate more on that video. And just for some clarity, what I'll be doing during the video is also narrating some parts of it too. So there may be some pause and push. It's not your computer, it's me trying to pause and explain some of that. So let me share you some of that right now. And we'll start with the video here. If everybody can see my screen. Okay, here we go. So this here is Ban Chang, Rayong. It is situated in the EEC that Kun Nao was talking about. And we'll talk about here why we chose, we already know why EEC is such a big part of Thailand, because the largest part of Thailand's manufacturing and exports is from this area. What we're trying to do is increase the efficiency and productivity and infrastructure for this area to increase, again, the exports and the total amount of production in this area for the greater good of the economy. But what we're focused on here is because that area is such a big industrial estate area, there's also many different conditions that occur. So what we're focused today on, the pain point, is how we help the citizens and the city officials that live in that area. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to turn off the music. Okay, so this is Ban Chang, the municipality. We worked with the mayor and all the bureaucrats in Ban Chang, Rayong. Okay, here we go. It's on the seaside. This is actually part of our project here, but we'll get into this in a bit. Okay, so these are actually the 5 prototype. One second here. So that was the 5 poles that we actually put there for the first proof of concept. That's physically there right now. It's all up and running. And we're about to get into why this area was chosen. We chose to partner with EEC, which is the commission themselves, and then the National Telecom, which is the government telecom of Thailand. Basically, it's a merger between TOT and CAT, but this was just because it's the first project that we're doing, and that's the spectrum that we had basically established a partnership with at that time. Okay, so this is our app that we have, and I'll tell you how the app is involved. So the reason why we chose this area is because, again, it's in the area of the ports, the airport, many different industrial parks. There's a lot of pollution. There's a lot of ships and there's transpo that go over here. Petrochemicals are based here as well. This is also the police station. So aside from all the manufacturing, there's also the civil agencies. So there's the police station, there's the health and the hospitals around there as well. So what we were trying to do was utilize 5G and technologies and IoT to help solve issues for the citizens and the city center. So right here, what you'll see is, this is a smart pole, and a smart pole here is the IoT that we had talked about. Again, our use case and pain point that we're trying to solve here is because there's a lot of pollution, there's a lot of emergencies that happen in the area, there's a lot of explosions, there's a lot of risk around there. So how do we use how do we make sure that we capture data, whether it be IoT or non-IoT, to help better serve the city, as well as help better serve the citizens? So this pole that you see right here, and I'll just let it run a little bit more, actually has a bunch of sensors here. And what it captures is PM2, so pollution, a lot of nitrous, carbon dioxide, all the different kind of chemicals that could be inside the area. And all of these sensors here that is on the poles capture it from the IoT basis. So this brings in the environmental data. What it does is, once we capture the IoT data of all the environmental sensors, it comes into what we call here our command center. So our command center right here is actually the display. So it runs through a platform first, right? So first the IoT data is coming from a SaaS solutions through the sensors and hardware. Then it comes into the platform that we have. And this platform is able to generate data visualization into data and graphs and charts for different parties to see. In this case, they are generating the data for the municipality or the mayor's office. So what you're seeing here is the dashboard that we've actually put together for the mayor's office itself. Okay, this is all the data dashboard. One important thing to note is all that data that we were capturing is IoT based. What is very different here is that we were also able to take local and regional data. So for example, the pollution, we take data and we merge it with data that has weather patterns of the local and the region of that area. So that makes the data that we have much more robust in just capturing it from the IoT part of things. Okay, second use case here. So for example, there you may have noticed that there are cameras on these poles. So on the cameras, what we also notice is that it not only captured just traffic controls of people going left and right or front and back, they're also capturing people who are experiencing very non-traditional issues. For example, what you'll see here is a camera capturing an accident. So what happens is the data goes into the camera, and then, so we have two functions here. One, the data comes in the camera, and then it goes to the command center, and that's where the mayor then starts to talk to the police office as well as the hospital to report this incident. We also have an option too, because the municipality of Ban Chang had requested that we have a manual SOS on these poles as well, which is what you see here. So what happens is all this data comes in again to the command center. The command center now, so this command center is in 3 places. One is the mayor's office. Number 2, it's in the police office. And then number 3, it is in the sanitation, Anamai in Thailand, that's what we call it. And so all this data that is captured from the IoT as well as the local and regional data, which is the non-IoT, goes into one platform and then is displayed on the dashboard to all these 3 places. Again, mayor's office, police office, and sanitation. But what it also does is it goes into an application for the citizens themselves, all displaying the different parts of the data coming from one platform. So again, what it means—
you would need, Shannon, you would need to come to an end. So like 1 or 2 minutes.
Okay, sure. So what it is at the end of this, what the benefit to the citizens is that the response time is quicker. The citizens actually get access to themselves in terms of emergency response, understanding weather patterns, understanding if there's an explosion, understanding what to do, as well as the city as themselves. They also have the data right at their fingertips and able to respond quickly for the benefit of the citizens as well. Okay, so this basically wraps up the solution that we have, which is this is another drone that also helps capture another IoT set of data as well. So that comes to the end of our solution that we're actually working in Ban Chang today in Rayong.
Okay, that was quick. No more charts. One famous last chart.
Okay, let me just quickly change here. One chart just to show you.
Or 1 or 2 charts.
Yep. All right. So let me do this here and share screen. Okay. And here. All right. So I will just go to here. So you will understand, or you will see a lot of smart cities happening in Thailand. What happens is you go, this is what we also help with. You actually go to the city first, you find out the pain points because every city is different. Some of the islands want to, so number one, the problem that we were solving was the security and safety of and supplying data to the city officials as well as the citizens themselves. Now that is the pain point we're solving. So what we do, and you'll see this across Thailand as well, is there's many other cities doing very similar things. One city is doing energy, one other city is doing traffic, one other city is doing elderly healthcare. So early stage is solving the pain point. Then we have all the different solutions where we have different verticals of the different solutions. Again, those are the 7 smarts that you heard from Deepa, from mobility to energy to healthcare, blah, blah, blah. Then what we do here is the connected side. So from the vertical, what's very important to be actual a smart city is to have that horizontal connectivity as a platform. Now, this is the same, this is the one thing that is different from all the smart cities we see today, which is very modular and actually connecting it and being robust with local or regional or national data. And that's actually what makes it robust to either the citizens, the city officers, or anybody else. Then basically from that, you have the engine of growth. So this is actually the main point and the main slide that I wanted to get to, because you may hear of smart cities a lot. And so to close out, this is my last slide. As Kun Now and Kun Ravi has indicated, we need a whole ecosystem to actually be able to put this all together. So we talked about the IoT side. So we work with a bunch of different vendors, SIs and startups to actually come up with the solutions. We go into the cities, find the pain point, these solutions. Then we work with people such as NT or AIS or DTech and True to actually come up with, well, we don't own the spectrum, right? And that's where the 5G comes in, and 4G and other solutions of connectivity as well. We also use it and power it by the different 5G cores here. So the Huawei's, the Mavenir, the Ericsson of the world. We power that. Again, our partner for this specific project was Cisco. So Cisco was able to help us with the platform side of things. And then for us, we actually work with doing the data visualization. So to close out on this last slide, we're also looking for many different partners. We're very sector agnostic. What 5G CT really does is we go to the cities, we find the pain points, we work with all these different vendors, and then we put our data visualization and platform on top of it. So if there's anybody else who would like to work with us, we're very open. And that's it. That's the end of my slide. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was great listen to you. Also a great video. And also it's really good that you stop and then explain what you're doing, because it's much easier to digest how complex a smart city solution can be. Thank you very much. So this is now the time where we open the panel. So all of you are now part of the panel. Ravi, now Shannon. And I would also ask the audience to raise your questions. We have the first one. Maybe we can just start with that one to have an easy start. So the first question from somebody who doesn't want to supply his or her name is, are there similar smart city projects happening in Thailand and Southeast Asia? That question goes to all of you. Certainly Ravi probably knows the greater area smart cities project, but I don't know who wants to start, but I know of some other ones. I don't know. Ravi, do you want to start first, giving the more Asian or Southeast Asian perspective? Are you aware of other smart city projects?
Yeah, sure. Definitely, to the extent I know, I will definitely share. I think, both Shannon and Wanchak, they did a fantastic job of describing what is happening in Thailand. I know For example, Singapore has a whole new initiative around Smart Nation, and some of you must have heard, and that has existed for a number of years, right? As far as I remember, Singapore's Smart Nation initiative started in 2014, and they had an industry roundtable, suggesting, seeking inputs and suggestions from industry, and they have implemented a number of use cases as well. And I know that Vietnam was considering a smart city program, and they had around 8-9 cities on their list to be transformed from a smart city. So there is definitely activity going on there. And if we move beyond ASEAN, some of you know India has got a 100 smart city mission program. A lot of work we have done there as well. So I think it is definitely picking up in terms of adoption, because it needs to be, because most of the the challenges that cities face across the globe are very similar, right? And but to Shannon's point, some want to prioritize one set of use cases ahead of others because they appear much more acute for them at that point of time. But the overall bucket of use cases is pretty much is very similar across these cities that we're talking about.
And now, would you like to add? Are you aware of the second or third project in Thailand?
Yeah, I totally agree with Kundavi. Singapore and many other cities elsewhere in the world are a good example of smart city. But for in Thailand, I would like to raise one of examples here is Phuket. I think many of you will be aware about Phuket. It's a tourist attraction. But before COVID-19, there's a million of people visit there. And during the last few years, Phuket tried to develop smart city application to increase safety for tourists and provide more facility for businesses to serve the tourists there. During the COVID-19 pandemic, there's a lot of use cases of Internet of Things in Phuket, like yacht quarantine. The billionaire, they can sell their yacht to Phuket and be quarantined in their yacht for 14 days. And we have a wristband for them to track them. Even they are in the bay or travel along the islands nearby Phuket. And then they can onboard to Phuket Island to travel to any other part of Thailand. We also have a CCTV system in Phuket as well to help police and the government to serve the safety for the tourists. Elsewhere in Thailand, there's a lot of cities, Chiang Mai, Khon Kaen, that try to develop many smart city use cases here. I think that's some example that I can provide here. Okay,
thank you very much. Shannon, would you like to add or?
Just a little to add what Kunal said. There are a ton in Thailand. There's about 7 or 10 model cities right now. Most of them are either in the strategic side of things, pain point, and as mentioned, they're doing something that's very just vertical. They haven't really done the horizontal build in the platform as well as connecting with the local and regional data yet. So there are a few, for example, Chiang Mai is trying to do elderly care and tourism. Phuket again is doing tourism. We have a bunch. Wang Tan is a big one as well, trying to do all 7 of DIPA. So DIPA, just so for people to know, it's the promotional agency under the Ministry of Digital Economy. They put together 7 different types of mobility, energy, people, governance, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, one of the definitions that we have is, in order for a smart city to be smart, it actually has to connect data first. And then you could actually build on the different types of verticals, whether it be healthcare, whether it be energy or whatever it is. So we see a lot of them doing the opposite, which is also fine, because then they'll just build in the horizontal later.
Yeah, sure. I think you really showed perfect example for that kind of analyzing the pain points of a city and then building applications on top of it. Yeah. And if I think of smart cities, of course, there are many of them piloting or real in Europe and also in the Americas. But the ultra smart cities probably are on the east coast of China. If you think of Shenzhen or other cities, which also brings us probably to a topic we should talk about in terms of citizens feel comfortable in a smart city. Yeah? So all this traceability, trackability, and so it has its good side, as you perfectly showed. Do you discuss such things in your project when you talk to the government and the citizens? So how do you sell the obvious pros of a smart cities against the contras of a smart city?
Yeah, I can come in, Mark, on that one because we have obviously been in discussion with cities across the globe in terms of these use cases, and the most important topic of privacy and security always comes up, right? Everybody wants to be assured of the fact that their data is safe, as well as their privacy is maintained. I think over the period of time, the technology has evolved to an extent where the implementations can take care of these concerns, right? Some of the, for example, some of the technologies around face recognition or number plate recognition for vehicles and stuff like that have created some concerns among the citizens. I think now there is enough technology to, for example, to blur somebody's face if you're just doing people counting, right? If your use case is to do people counting, then you don't need to recognize people's faces. So then there is enough technology to blur the faces as long as you are getting the accurate count of data. And the same thing with respect to vehicles, right? If you're just doing vehicle volume analysis at a particular traffic junction or at a particular location, you don't need the number plate. So then there are technologies to blur those things. So I think technology has definitely evolved to take care of some of these concerns. At the same time, if you look at some other services, like for example, public Wi-Fi, those kinds of services, definitely where you do have to provide your quote unquote personal information, there are two angles to that, right? One is, if you want to leverage the public service, which is free service, then for the sake of citizens' own safety, the government would like to know who is using that, and that's fair. But there are technologies now. All the technology vendors make sure that the information that users opt in to provide to the service provider in this case, or to the city in this case, is extremely well secured. Right, so there is enough controls there. So I think more and more these concerns are being addressed very proactively, and more importantly, I also feel that the citizen education and awareness is an important part to also address in this topic of security and privacy.
Let's talk a little bit about if I kind of consider the typical behavior of a government in a city. Yeah? Maybe I can only speak for European cities, forgive me. Yeah? But they are not really the best guys in data. They are not really the best guys in kind of accurate managing of things. And now you guys come there as AIS, as 5GCT, as Cisco, as Marvin, and then you roll out a command center to that city. And you have an ecosystem of 500 tech companies. Yeah. So how does this match this typical city and then this kind of high tech? Yeah. Maybe Shannon, and now you can tell us a little bit more about your experiences in rolling out a smart city.
Yeah. I mean, as mentioned, the first thing that we do is we go to a city and we map out the pain points. And usually the first one is security and safety for the public. And that's quite, I mean, there's cameras as well as the sensors that we have talked about. And what we have found is that it's a trade-off. People do understand that they need to give up a bit of their privacy for some safety, and it's a process, right? So first we came in with the mayors of different places, which we're working with a few other cities as well. Some of them are tourism, some of them are a bit more agriculture, et cetera, whatever. And so different people have different pain points. But for this specific example in Rayong, what happened was we actually showed that there was one case, there was a suicide on Rayong beach shore, where we had one of the poles and the cameras. And what happened was we were able to help the police determine and rule out if it was a murder, if it was foul play, or if it was a suicide. And what we did was, yes, we did triangulate the license plate data, but we did not look at the person, the face to the ID, right? So yes, of course, when the police came by, saw the dead body, that they did track that person to the ID. But there are some privacy issues that we made sure that it wasn't based on the data that was inside that we're procuring in the platform. And so because of course in Thailand we have PDPA, there's other types of data that we have today. And so we're very careful about that. But the second thing is, what we talked about the locals is there are also some pieces of data that the citizens do opt in as well. So there's kind of two parts of it right now. But just having said that, we were able to save just that small little example. We were able to save the police 2 weeks of normal investigation time to 2 hours. And then they're like, oh, this is why. So then it's kind of a trade-off. And the other use case that we're also on another island talking to, there's some areas that they do not have police check-in points. So then it's bleo. Basically, there's a lot of thief snatching. There's been rapes or killings there. And so that's something that they definitely do want to do. So those is, again, it's a trade-off. It's a process when we talk about it.
Now, if you talk to city, if you talk to city officials, if you talk to city officials and say, hey, I offer you network slicing and standalone 5G, and do they understand your language?
I don't think so. The justification of 5G adoption would not about technology itself for sure. For smart city, it's about public safety. It's about benefit.
So they understand the concept of smart city.
Yeah. So in order to justify those use cases, we have to work closely with them and understand their pain point and their benefit. However, for the case of smartphone, we have to do the feasibility with them on how 5G can help them to reduce the cost of brain controller or even efficiency of the 5G adoption in the smart city port. So we have to deeply understand about what they do. But for the case of privacy, I would like to add to what Khun Shannon mentioned. I think mostly it's about facial recognition or video dialectic. And I think in Thailand that we have the data privacy law, the same kind of GDPR here in Thailand. City or even industrial estate, they are very aware about the privacy. So they would deprioritize data, I would say. Depersonalize data when they do the facial recognition, when they do the video dialectic for traffic management during the traffic peak hour. They store data, but later on they depersonalize. They took the license plate number out. They took the people identity out, and this one will comply to the law that enforced here in Thailand. So that's the point that I would like to add.
Okay, thank you very much. With regards to those poles, Shannon, you showed, is that something you built with your partner, or what is it kind of unique?
Yeah, so smart poles is not anything new now, right? So there's a ton all over Thailand and many vendors that do it. What is unique, and some of those smart poles only have light and they call it smart. Some of them only have sensors and they call it smart. So there needs to be a standardization of the definition of smart. And really what it is when it connects the IoT and hardware with non-IoT data and uses and basically translates that into data visualization for people to use that helps not just the machine to machine, but also machine to city and then city to its citizens as well. So that's really, and in AIS's, example, it goes machine to machine to the operator of the industrial park and the operators of manufacturers as well. So that's really the definition of smart. So to answer your question, there's a lot of it around there, but really the thing that makes it different is our solution, our software that we actually put on top of it, because we understand the pain points and we work with a ton of different partners to make sure that we do it in very robust. So like Khun Nao said, yes, there's different specializations. There's got to be energy, healthcare, blah, 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 and all that other stuff. So for us, we're just focusing on smart city right now. Healthcare is our second one. And our third one is industrial. But right now, we're just trying to focus on the citizens and what we do well.
Okay. Ravi, one of the biggest promises of 5G is that you can kind of address a myriad of IoT sensors in a square kilometer. Can you give us a feeling of if you would have the ultra optimized smart city, about how many sensors we are talking here, about what's the capacity of a smart city? You know, where comes the Cisco engine in, and then
Yeah, in fact, great point, Mark. When we started looking at this whole smart city market, right, maybe 2012, 2013, and we did a huge study around the IoT and in the public sector and in the private sector, etc. And then our estimate was that overall in the world, there are 4 billion streetlights. 4 billion streetlights in the world. That was at that point of time, right? So now if you look at any size of a city, from small, medium, large, we are talking about few 100,000 streetlights to maybe up to a million in some large cities, right? So if you look at all the devices that can get connected in a city to a network, then let's take a sort of a medium-sized city. We're talking about 500,000 streetlights. Maybe we're talking about 5,000 to 8,000 parking spots. A few, maybe 3, 4, 5 million meters. Energy meters, water meters, and all these kinds of things. Then maybe 500 to 600 streetlights in the city. So if you start to add up these things, and if you want to connect all these things, you're literally getting into million devices plus maybe more in a city, right? In a couple million at least, maybe even more. So then what technology is required to make sure that they get the reliable connectivity to be able to run the city in that real-time manner that we have the vision for. Some of the data that Shannon was showing, the dashboard that Shannon was showing, is your window to the whole city at that point of time. Then you are getting data from your meters, from your traffic lights, from your street lights, all of that coming together. So the networking, a reliable networking, plays a huge role in connecting those. And then with 5G release 17, delivering the massive IoT or massive machine type capability, we are really looking forward to that capability to unlock the vision of what we just talked through this session actually today.
Okay.
If I could add one thing, just on a layman side of things. So we get the question all the time, is 5G necessary for smart cities? And frankly, the truth is, we know that there's fiber optics, there's 4G, there's Wi-Fi, there's wireless, there's even LoRa, right? Because of the different sensors and different types of things. But that's today, right now. In order to prep ourselves for future flooding, future, disaster management, future energy saving, et cetera, all the different smart verticals that is going to happen in the future. Like Ravi just said, we're at probably 10,000 different devices for one city. But then in the future, very soon, within like 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, we're going to have millions as well. So from today to the day that we have millions, we need to actually already start with the 5G fundamentals. We might be doing like a mix, the NSA solution, as we talked about earlier today. And there definitely, for us, there is a solution. We're not trying to prescribe a Ferrari when you could just be okay with the Toyota. Then you change the Toyota, then it becomes a Ferrari, right? But for us, it is a mixture of things, but the underlying foundation is that it will come and we will need it. And like Cisco is a very reliable network and platform that we have, we need 5G spectrums just like AIS, and we need to make sure that we're ready and have the proper building blocks for this 10 million devices that's going to happen in the very near future.
I would like to add here, I think even the smaller scale of factories or smart building, we have found that there are many 10,000 connectivity needed in the building or even in the factory. What Khun Ravi mentioned earlier, smart meter, smart sensor, smart parking lot, so on and so forth, within the one building. they have about 10,000 connectivity needed. So I believe that though there will be more and more adoption for 5G, but the design of 5G for serve those use cases is ready. And I really think that the larger scale of city or larger scale of smart industrial asset, I think that there will be more and more sensors to come in the near future.
So now, Ravi, Shannon, thank you for your famous last words. They kind of built the road to why we do Beyond Mobile next year in Bangkok in June. It's exactly that reason. Shannon spoke about the fundamentals of 5G and why we need this now. And of course, everything is in the rollout and piloting, and we have lots of things, but businesses and cities who are dealing with that need to understand the impact. And this is why we're doing that Beyond Mobile show. Thank you very much for this panel. It was great. Yeah? And maybe allow me to show one or two more charts. Marty, if you can show exactly. Again, a reminder, our show will be in June 8 and 9 in Bangkok. Everyone who is interested in joining us, come there and also connect with us. Connect with us if you want to have direct connections with Now or Ravi or Shannon. And there is another webinar coming up late January 27th on future mobility, which is of course also a hot topic on the rollout of 5G. I think Ravi mentioned that earlier. If you think of autonomous driving, yeah, it all needs 5G. So this is it for today. Thank you for joining us on the webinar on smart cities, and hope to see you latest in Bangkok for the event. And please scan this code now. You can tell us how you found this webinar, how you found the participants, how you found me as a moderator. And once you scanned it, you can just type in your answers. Would help us to create an even better webinar next time. Thank you for the team behind the scenes, the VNU Asia Pacific team, and bye-bye from Germany.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Thank you very much, Kap.
Good day.